We got a bidet! Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we are talking about The Meg 2, The Trench. And so, there's a lot of success with the original one, so then they made a second movie, of course. You know, that always happens when you make a crap ton of money at the movie theaters, even if the movie's crap. So, I bet you're here to find out whether it was good or not, and then if you want to stick around for some spoilers, find out what the movie was actually about. So here in the first section, we're going to talk to you about some spoiler-free impressions. And then the second part of this video, we're going to go ahead and back some of our points up with our ratings with some spoilers so we can put more context to what's going on. So I guess just to kind of say some first impressions to get us going here, I would say that the movie held my attention. I thought it was entertaining. But I also thought the movie was kind of all over the place. It didn't seem to be as focused as the first movie. So I recently watched the first movie. I don't think Sarah got to rewatch the first one before seeing this one. But I do remember from the first movie, you know, they go down to the underwater area, and then the Meg is released, and then they have to deal with the Meg, and then that's basically the movie. Whereas this one, there's way more stuff happening. So that's why I kind of feel the movie wasn't as focused as the other one. But it was entertaining. I will say that. What did you think of the movie?
I think overall I liked it. There's some family drama aspect that I think kind of took away from the excitement of the movie and maybe made it drag just a little bit. Not that that's like a big thing, but it's just kind of like a side thing that was more of an annoyance, I suppose. Otherwise, I kind of am in the same shoes as what you've been saying. There's a couple other things that obviously the Meg is kind of like a crazy type mythological type creature. So there's a couple other is it not mythological?
I'm pretty sure it's real. It was just from like tons and tons of years ago. I'll look it up really quick.
Okay. Well, where I was going with this is that there's some crazy creatures, and so there's some other ones that kind of seem far-fetched, so that even if the Meg is real, there's some other things that are like, how could that really happen? When this isn't supposed to be like a make-believe type movie, if that makes sense. Trying to be very delicate with not spoiling some of the other creatures, but I don't know. There's some things that make you scratch your head and go, "What?"
The Megalodon was real. It's just that in these movies they make it a little bigger than what they actually were. So they were humongous sharks. I didn't get an exact count here for how big they were, but from my very quick little research, they were swimming in the ocean between 23 million and 3.5 million years ago. So that's a big range, to say the least. But millions of years ago, megalodons did exist on Earth. So we got that going for us.
So the likelihood of them being real right now, like in today's world, is pretty slim.
Right. Yeah.
Not impossible because we haven't explored every inch of the ocean, but pretty crazy if that were to be a thing. But anyway,
I do want to touch on some other parts of the movie. So some of the big name actors. I mean, we got Jason Statham back reprising his role from the original. He is still who he was in the original, and what I mean by that is when he needs to kick butt, he kicks butt, and he has those like sarcastic one-liners that are pretty funny here and there. I don't think we were like, you know, rolling on the floor laughing about all the different things they were saying, but they were enough to get at least a little chuckle here and there. Um, Very dry humor at times too, where it's kind of like, did he just say that? And that's the kind of humor that I like. But also in conjunction with Jason Statham, I got a handful of the actors pulled up here. Paige Kennedy, I had never heard of him before, but he was my favorite character in this whole movie. His name is DJ, and he was one of uh, Jason's character Jonas, one of Jonas's friends in the movie. He worked for uh, the company that had the whole operation that we saw in the first movie. With the exploration for under the water. Let's see, trying to think of other, and we won't go into too many details yet, but another one, the actor's name is Jing Wu. Can't really pronounce his character name. I'm gonna say Mr. Zhang because I can't pronounce his first name. But he's the guy that is basically the boss of the whole sea operations. So his character is pretty interesting too. Like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about him in the spoilers because he had quite a bit that had us scratching our heads, so to speak. But I would say overall, pretty cool movie. I think the first one is a little bit better, to be honest, because it's more focused. There is kind of like a rumor slash talking point going around where this movie seems to be like two movies in one. I would say this kind of felt like three movies in one. Like that's where the unfocusedness comes from. We'll talk more about that in spoilers as well. But I guess we can go ahead and give our non-spoiler impression rating here really quick before we decide to dive into the spoiler section. So Sarah, what would you give the Meg out of 10 with non-spoilers?
So for the Meg 2,
Oh, what did I say?
you said the Meg.
Oh, the Meg 2, The
I-
Trench.
I'm just teasing you. So for the Meg 2, I told you last night I was really feeling kind of like a 4, but the more I kind of settled on things and kind of digested the information, I feel like this was a lot more fun of a movie than what I was giving it credit for last night. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of crazy things that are going on. There are some things that are kind of far-fetched or like head scratchers that maybe detract from it, and a little bit of family drama that I wasn't a super fan of because I felt like it was just unnecessary. Um, but overall, I did enjoy the movie, and I feel like it's an above average movie. So I'm gonna put this one at a 6 for me.
All right, so a 6 for Sarah. Like I said, the movie was, lacked a little bit of focus. It was kind of all over the place. There were, like Sarah said, there were some things where we were like, "What in the world? Now we're going there," kind of a thing. And so I think I would probably give it a 5 out of 10. I think it's an average film. It was entertaining, but they definitely could have done more with this film if they would have maybe push the rating a little bit. I think this movie was PG-13. Yeah, PG-13. And you know what? How much blood did you recognize in this movie? Like, how much blood did you see?
I think there was one scene where a guy dropped blood in the water and the shark came.
Right. So there really wasn't any like huge mutilation type blood scenes. And Jaws has a good handful of them, and Jaws is rated PG. So I feel like they could have done, some things going on here where they could have been a little more realistic with some of their kills. They could have been a little more fun. Just kind of laugh out loud type kills. You know what I mean? Those ridiculous things. Like when we were watching this, if you've ever played the video game Maneater, that's just kind of what I was imagining was, just I'm the shark. What ridiculous things can I do? And I was kind of hoping to get more of that here. But I feel like we didn't get as much as I really wanted to. So for me, I give it a 5 out of 10. Average film. What I recommend to go see in theaters? Probably not. I'd probably say just wait for it to come out on streaming, which shouldn't take too long. Things are seeming to come out faster these days than they used to. But that was our non-spoiler discussion, and so we'll give you a second here if you want to click away to not hear spoilers. We're going to be able to talk about in detail more about why we gave our ratings because I think by talking about the movie a little bit more, it's going to give some more context. So, all right, let's go ahead and start talking about the movie. So, in the first movie, like I said, we kind of established that we have this megalodon that, popped out of the water during one of their excavations, and then they, dealt with it. They didn't kill it. They kept it, actually. So this movie starts off with this like billionaire dude, millionaire, whatever amount of money he has. He's the guy that's running the show, and he's trying to, discover more stuff about underwater things with his crews. But from the first movie, he actually kept and trained the megalodon. I forget what he called it. I think it was like hockey or something like that. I don't know what the Meg's name was.
Like that.
But basically, you can see from my picture, this is one of the training montages where he has like a clicker, and based on how many clicks he does on the clicker, the megalodon either comes towards him or avoids him, kind of a thing. So we start to learn that, one of the research projects is to train a megalodon. And then turns out, like, while they're going through these underwater excavations, they take two of them down there, and the little girl in this movie, which her name
Mei Ying.
Mei Ying, thank you. I didn't know how to pronounce that at first, because it also says as Sophia. So
That's her real name.
Oh, okay.
Or
Oh, yeah.
part of her real name.
Yeah, interesting. So they go down in this underwater excavation. Some things happen down there where they stumble across this area where they notice that there's actually other people there, and they're like, what the heck? Nobody else has ever, been down here before. And turns out there's another group in this movie, which are kind of like the villains of this movie, where they're also trying to mine stuff from under the water. I don't remember what they were mining, but they're trying to get some sort of material. And because they get spotted by Jonas's group, the main villain, his name is Montez. He's basically like telling people what to do, and then he was like, set these charges on the station, and then we're gonna get out of here. And they take too long, and so he decides to like just blow it up and kill his crew anyways. And then he decides to try to dip, whereas Jonas and his group, they also have to get out of there too because of all the explosions. And this basically,
That's who he was trying to explode.
What's that?
That's who Montez was trying to explode. He was trying to blow up Jonas's ship.
Right, but he also blew up the mining area as well. He risked it for the biscuit, so to speak. So yeah, they had to get out of there, but in the process, one of the vehicles that was with Jonas, because there's two of them, one of them gets damaged enough where at first it kind of seems like they're all dead, and one of the dudes gets out alive at least. Or did all of them get out?
Yes.
Okay, all of them got out. And this is where we're starting to, this is actually, I think, the second time that we see Mr. Zhang's character avoid death. And so, like, the first time we see it is the scene where he's showing off his clicking abilities, and, everybody's led to believe that the Meg just chomped him instead of listening to him, and he shows up like, see, everything was fine. This is another instance where they were like, oh, the second cruiser was destroyed. Nope, here he is. And basically, throughout this whole movie, there's probably a good 7, 8, maybe 9 instances where he is said to be killed, and he just comes back and he's alive. But they're both of the shuttles are actually damaged, and so they decide that they want to put on these suits that will let them walk on the ocean floor, so they can maybe walk back to the base if they can make it in time, because they have oxygen limits, that's in their suits. And so they decide to trek and head towards the base. They encounter some underwater creatures along the way. It feels a lot like the movie Alien. There's even a creature that latches onto someone's face at one point, and they freak out and they just rip it off the face. Nothing too crazy happens with that. Um, would you like to pick up and start talking about it?
Yeah, so in this general time frame, we lose two of our crew members, which is where I was kind of iffy on the movie because it was two people that I didn't really know who they were, and they didn't really have much background. Like they weren't like important characters, so to speak, or like main characters. And I think these are the only two people that we get introduced to that die in the whole movie. Because like you were talking about Mr. Zhang and how he evaded death over and over and over. So there's none of the main characters that really uh wind up dying.
And
Um
stay dead.
yes. Yep. So they make it into that base, and then at the same time that they're doing all this stuff, there's some people back at the base camp that are trying to figure out like, can we send the rescue diver down there to save them? And then they find out they can't because it's been sabotaged beyond repair. Well, who sabotaged it, who broke it, and stuff. And so we right around this time we get kind of a sense of what's going on, and that's that Jess, who is one of the girls that's up on the surface and pretending to care about these people, is actually behind this mining operation, and she's the one that sabotaged the ship. So she has this like, I'm gonna call them a SWAT team, but it's really for her group. I don't
She
know,
got some grunts.
a group of bodyguards, so to speak, to kind of shut down the whole operation. And their objective is basically to kill anybody who's not part of the mining operation, right? And to not let there be any witnesses as to what's going on. So we've got that going on the surface. She's able to communicate with them while they're on that base down underwater because it's her base, right? Her and Montez. And she's trying to get one of the people in Jonas's group to kill Jonas because she's really got a big beef with him for whatever reason. Do you remember that from the first movie? The
Uh,
quarrel between those two characters.
so the group that was mining was also the group in like the very beginning of the film where Jonas was figuring out that they were dumping chemicals in the water when they weren't supposed to. So they had a little beef with him for that.
I gotcha. Okay, that makes more sense. So she is able to remotely let go of the escape pods, so they're not able to use those. There's a lot of we're going to die, no, we're not. Now we're going to die, no, we're not, and kind of back and forth on how we're going to get out of this underwater base. They wind up finding a submarine and being able to use that and escaping. But once they get back up to the surface, what they realize is that part of those explosions that were set off earlier created like a hole or a rift in the sea through the thermal layer so that anything that's down in the depths is able to come up to a surface, even though normally it's not allowed to break that barrier. So that's how we get a bunch of Megs escaping and a whole bunch of crazy stuff coming out of the water, down from the depths or the trench, if you will. There's a lot of action sequences at the base, especially with DJ, the character Jeremy was saying earlier that he really liked on, just, I was going to say karate. I mean, I guess in a way it's karate, but just a
Martial
lot of,
arts.
huh?
Martial arts.
Yes, that's a better word for it. Thank you. Um, there's just a lot of back and forth, and trying to figure out who's gonna come out on top. And so, of course, our little group is able to escape on a little boat. They wind up going to kind of like a vacation resort because I guess that's like the next nearest shoreline for them to go to because they were in the middle of the ocean. So there's a bunch of chaos that unleashes there because the Megs followed them. There's also this like crazy kraken octopus type monster that's creating mayhem. And then this is where things got a little weird for me that I didn't fully understand where these things came from. Is there's almost like these like mini dinosaur creatures that look like they're from the movie called 65 from Adam Driver, which that movie was supposed to be 65 million years ago. Like those creatures should not be in today's world. So, especially the ones on land.
I
We
thought
don't
they were
really
like
have dinosaurs on land.
I thought they were Komodo dragons or something, but I mean they were way more vicious and whatnot. So, well, maybe Komodo dragons are vicious like that, but there seemed to be some sort of prehistoric origin for these creatures, knowing that that's where all the other ones were coming from. We did
Yeah.
see in like the very, very beginning of the movie, like when it first started, we got a little scene of like way back in the dinosaur times. And it's like this scene of, what we would normally picture as dinosaur times. And then like this T Rex is going along the shore, and then a megalodon comes out and just eats a T Rex. And I think we see those little creatures in that little montage. Uh, I don't really feel like we pay much attention to that detail because, our focus is like, dinosaurs, and not necessarily, oh, that's going to come up later on. Because, like, a T Rex didn't come out later on, but those little, like I said, Komodo dragon looking things did come out. So, yeah, we have this dynamic of there's a huge kraken out there with a megalodon trying to eat people, and then there's these creatures on land that are trying to kill everybody, and so there's just this huge mayhem that's going on.
And you got Montez's men still trying to kill our group.
Yep. And so we just got this big, crazy, I guess you'd call it somewhat epic ending. um, I say somewhat because I think because there's so much lack of focus and so many things going on, I think it's hard to really nail any one of those. So, like for instance, we know there's this huge kraken, and we know there's like three megalodons. Um, Jonas takes out two of the megalodons, and then there's like the Mac Daddy that's still out there left. Um, and that last one gets entangled with this kraken, and they have a little bit of a fight. But to be perfectly honest, I think that fight lasted maybe like 15 seconds at the most that we got to see on film. Because like later on, Mr. Zhang, in one of his non-believable non-death scenes, he went underwater with like a explosive that was attached to like a machete, and he shoved the machete into the kraken, and it exploded as a potential way to take it out. But I think the megalodon ended up crunching the kraken for the final blow. But they didn't actually fight very much throughout the last sequence. So also to add on to the lack of focus for the film, like the first chunk of the film is like kind of like the first movie where they're exploring, and I honestly thought they were kind of just going to do like a little repeat that would have brought the creatures out. But to try to make it a little bit different, they bring in this extra villain character, and so the whole middle section really didn't have much to do with the Meg. The middle section had to do with the drama between Jonas and this other crew, because they're, like Sarah said, they were trying to get out of this facility of being however far underneath the water, and it was Montez and his group that were going back and forth with them until they could get back to the surface. The only really big part that the Meg played in that whole section was that, they said, we got to get out of this facility. We'll never make it out with the Megs out there. And so they like put these really super bright lights or something on the base that activate so that the Megs attack the base. while they can get away. So that whole middle chunk, there really isn't the whole point to the Meg, which is, the whole point of the movie. So the first chunk I thought was pretty cool with, again, exploring underwater. That to me, that's creepy. I don't like, swimming out in the ocean, not knowing what's around me. So, this kind of a thing is really neat. To me, it almost feels kind of like a horror type movie in a way where it's creepy to see all this stuff underwater, knowing we're going to run into something else too, because it's the second movie. But I like that section. The middle section was kind of for me. And then the third section was, like I said, a little bit too ridiculous. Yes, we got to see a little bit of, big monsters fighting back and forth. But overall, I just think when you put it all together, it was pretty average for me. It was entertaining. Like I said, I watched it. I didn't feel the need to look at my watch to see if it was almost over, kind of a thing. But at the same time, I think I was hoping for a little bit different of a movie. I wish the focus would have been more on the creatures than the villains. Like I could have seen maybe, their exploration had grown a lot since the last film or something, and they had those facilities, and then maybe something happened with those facilities where an explosion went off instead of this villain trying to take them out, kind of a thing. I think they could have actually centered it around their own thing, and had been successful. Um, One other thing that I think is kind of important slash interesting to think about with this film is that this movie is kind of like a greatest hits album of other creature movies, if that's a way to say it. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of references. I was like, they did that in Jurassic Park, or oh, they did that in this other shark movie, kind of a thing. There's a scene where Jess feels like that her and Montez have been successful, and they're like in this little debriefing room, and her back is to the glass, and then the Meg like comes up and chomps her out of the little meeting room and kills her. Montez gets away in that little scene. I don't know how the water doesn't rush in and like kill him, but I'm not a scientist. And so like that scene is from Deep Blue Sea. There's another scene where when they're walking on the ocean floor and they're trying to get back to the base, they're running out of oxygen, and Mr. Zhang is like, I'll distract them. I'll take care of them. You all go. And he gets out this flare that he's trying to like distract the creatures with. That's from Jurassic Park. That was Ian Malcolm trying to distract the T-Rex. So a lot of things like that. So it's just two instances that I can remember off the top of my head. But I can remember
Jaws 2. They name dropped it.
Oh yeah, they name dropped Jaws too. So also another thing, it's similar, but maybe might be a little far-fetched. Well, two of them. The one that might be a little bit far-fetched is in the movie, they're containing the original Meg from the first movie, and it breaks out and then goes into like the human area, like the public, so to speak. I believe that was in Jaws 3, where the shark like broke into SeaWorld and then rained terror. So similar concept there. But also this whole idea of trying to train a Meg and then use it. That's Jurassic World, especially since the end of the movie, he's using his clicker to like try to command it doing things, and it ends up taking out the Kraken, which is kind of like the is it I am forgetting the name. The Indominus Rex. It's like when the T-Rex, the hero from the old Jurassic Park films comes in and then kills it, fights it off, and then the sea creature thing kills it. It seemed to have a lot of parallels, which was kind of interesting. There was a lot of things, and like Sarah said, they literally name dropped something that they were referencing, so we can kind of tell that they were trying to do that. there anything else you wanted to say? I feel like I've been talking forever.
Uh, one of the things that I mentioned earlier was the family drama that I thought was kind of annoying. Um, so it's between Jonas and Mei Ying. I want to say he is her dad, or maybe father figure if he's not her actual dad. I don't know. On IMDb, she doesn't have a last name for her character. She's just listed as Mei Ying, so I'm not 100% sure. But he
Eh,
plays a father figure.
yeah, we'll call it that.
Um, So there's a lot of drama between the two of them. She's your normal typical teenager. He doesn't want her doing stupid things. She does stupid things anyway. That makes him angry. Just your typical family drama type stuff. I feel like it was unnecessary, and maybe that screen time could have been used to better explain some other things with how much was going on in this movie. But overall, I did really enjoy the movie. I thought it was fun. I thought it was crazy, and that's kind of what I expected from a killer shark movie is a fun but crazy movie. Um, I guess if there was some things that were less far-fetched and maybe a little more believable, and what I mean by that is specifically the dinosaur things that were on land in today's world. That seemed pretty crazy, especially because they were like right next to a tourist resort. How is nobody knows about this? This is a brand new thing. This is brand new information. Like, where did these things come from? Like, if I'm supposed to believe that they've been there the whole time, because the Kraken came out from the trench because of the explosion. So that at least has some credibility or something that makes it make sense. Whereas the dinosaur thing really kind of bothered me. I don't understand why that had to be, why it was necessary and why it needed to be part of the film. It was a really strange add-in to just add to the chaos, and I think we could have been better without it.
Wow, I did not know. I was trying to um look up maybe where those things came from, but this movie was based off of a novel called The Trench. I did not know that. Interesting.
I was not aware of that either.
Yeah. I was gonna say that's even another nod that's kind of like to other inspiring things because that was how Jurassic Park, like the book started, was these people went to an island and like tourist people went to an island kind of a thing, and these dinosaurs happened to be on the island, and so because they like killed the people, they had to run an investigation, and that's how it all like transpired. And that's kind of what was reminding me here is they didn't know they were there, and all of a sudden they're attacked. And so, all right, I think we've talked about the Meg 2, the trench, enough. I think we got our point across. 5 for me, 6 for Sarah, right? So it's up to you whether you want to go out and see it. Again, I'd recommend waiting for streaming if it was my or my advice to you. Um, but if you enjoy this type of video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We are doing movie discussions a lot more this year because of your feedback that you gave to us. And we got plenty more coming. We are so excited for a lot of these movies that are coming out, and we can't wait to share our thoughts about them with you. Drop us a like if you liked the video and drop us a comment letting us know if you saw the Meg 2 and what your thoughts are on it. And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.